Well, hello friends, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be making two chef's knives. We've got one that we're going to make with stock removal, and another that we're going to use by forging it to shape. I got the idea because recently, I obtained a rare item of ladder pattern Damascus that I wanted to turn into a chef's knife. But, before I go cutting into this, I'd like a little bit of practice, so we'll see this one in a future episode. For the stock removal blade, I will be using this piece of 8670 that I got from Pop's Knife Supply. And with it, I got these pieces of bone linen micarta that I would like to use with it. I think the combination will make a really slick looking knife. And I hope to keep this one in my supply so that way I can kind of test it out and see what I want to do on the other knife. See what works and see what doesn't. For our second chef's knife, I'm going to be forging it out of this bar of 5160. I also got this piece from Pops. However, the handle material that I'm going to be using was originally intended for that cleaver that I made out of the Jeep leaf spring that cracked. So I'll be using it with this, and instead of making a cleaver, we will be using a chef's knife, and this will be going back to the original owner. We're going to be doing a little bit of a brute de forge finish on this one to make it look a little bit more rustic. First things first, we'll get this in the vise and get it cut down to shape. We may either shorten the blade or forge the handle out a little more just to get a little bit more length on the handle. I know. Y'all are looking at this right now going, wow, is that the best he can do? The answer is yes. But fortunately for me, I have a grinder, which makes everything better. So right now the steel is still pretty soft, so I think it would be a perfect time to put out some lines on here so that way we know exactly where to drill our pinholes. So next, we're going to go back through and kind of round off the edge from where the handles are going to intersect all the way forward. So that way this is a little bit more comfortable to hold on to. So now we're just about ready to put this in the heat treat oven, but I have a concern. My tip is pretty small, and so we might lose some of this to scaling in the heat treat oven. So what we're going to do is coat it with this no scaler and hope to preserve a little bit of that thickness. Got to do the same thing to this knife. Originally, I was going to use the same handle that I intended to put on the knife back in the leaf spring video. That didn't work, and so I had it here. But now that I'm looking at it, and the more I think about this, I think I would rather use some walnut wood. I have plenty of it around, and I just really like the way it looks. Now for the most scary part, the heat treat and quench. The 5160 will be going in at a lower temperature and sharing it with another knife that you'll see in a different episode, and the 8670 will be going in last, as it heat treats at a higher temperature and has a little bit different properties. So let's take a look at how that looks. And we're warming our oil, let's get these cut out roughly. with the temper cycle now. So now we'll take these back to the belt grinder and clean them up just a little bit before we're ready to jump on the hand sanding. The rough ground on the blades is now done, so we want to fit up the handles and get them roughed in a little bit before we epoxy them up, so that way we don't accidentally break the epoxy bonds when we're grinding the handles. Done with that 2x72 now. This one's going to keep this brute de forge texture on it as it's a camp knife. So we'll go and glue on the handles right now. This one here is going to take us to we're going to hand sand it to a mirror finish. So it's going to be a long, tedious process to get that mirror shine on this blade. Pretty good right now. We got a really nice matte finish on the blade. We're waiting for a Trizac belt to show up so that way we can get that perfect matte finish on there. So in the meantime, we'll put the handles on. We'll just take the scales and rough up the surfaces here so that way they stick a little bit better and get all of the oil cleaned off of this so that way our epoxy can bond nice and tightly. successfully got a handle on things now. So next, before we get to sculpting the handles, we're going to go over and just trim these off. The less time that we're working on the pins, the less heat that penetrates, and the less likely we are to accidentally break the bonds on the handle. We're ready for final shaping now. First, we're going to wrap the handles just to protect ourselves and to protect the blades. These are already a little sharp, and just handling them wrong could result in a pretty serious cut. So we'll do that and then get it over to the grinder and get the final shaping done, and that's when these guys should really come together. Alright, so I'm not gonna lie, that's the first time I've ever used the surface conditioning belt, and that came out perfect. I think both of these are turning out just great, but I am very pleased with this result. So next, I think we better get these cleaned up and get my touch mark etched on both of these. Got the touch marks on there, so now we'll get a nice edge on these so that way they can actually cut, you know, the whole purpose they were intended for. Then we'll get some oil on the handle and the final polish on these and get them off to their owners. Alright, these guys are definitely sharp. Some of my best work for sure. They're not entirely flawless, but I'm pleased with them and they will do what they are intended to do. Alright, time to reiterate. This is 5160 steel with a walnut handle. This one here is 8670 from Pops with a bone linen micarta. Most of this stuff was from Pops, so a shout out to them. Well, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you guys have any comments or any suggestions for future videos, please let me know. I'm always looking for more projects and I'd like some feedback from you guys. It was good to see you, and I will see you next time.